Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Yusra Faiza binti Muhammad Zamri. My ID number BDB2207054.
My name is Layatul Zaini binti Auluddin. ID number BDB 2207018.
My name is Wardina Safia binti Muhammad Zain. My ID number is BDB 2207053.
My name is Nur Ailia Maisara binti Shamsul Akmal and my ID number is BDB 2207091.
My name is Safia Khadiza binti Rosidi. My ID number is BDB 2207078.
My name is Nurinisa binti Nazaruddin and my ID number is BDB 2207098.
So, for the first part of the video, we are going to introduce to you about the history of Coca-Cola. The history of Coca-Cola is a fascinating journey. In 1886, Dr. John S. Pemberton, a pharmacist in Atlanta, Georgia, invented Coca-Cola. He concocted a unique syrup by mixing carbonated water with a special blend of ingredients which he believed had medical properties. The first ever serving of Coca-Cola was sold at Jacob Pharmacy in Atlanta, initially marketed as tonic to relieve headache and fatigue. It was sold for just 5 cents per glass. 2 years later, in 1888, Atlanta businessman aka Asa Chandler bought the right to Coca-Cola and founded the Coca-Cola Company. He recognized the potential of the beverage as a refreshing drink rather than just a medical tonic. Candler's marketing prowess helped Coca-Cola gain popularity. In 1916, the iconic Coca-Cola counter bottle was introduced, designed to be easily recognizable in the dark, and when shattered, it became the symbol of brand and remained iconic to this day. Coca-Cola rapidly expanded its reach beyond the United States in early 20th century. It entered international markets including Canada and Mexico and began bottling operation worldwide. The brand's global presence continued to grow and becoming one of the most recognized and consumed beverage worldwide.
Next is Coca-Cola in times of war in the 20th century. Coca-Cola transformed the experimental wartime plants into fully operational facilities. Next, introduction of Diet Coke in 1982. Diet Coke is introduced in a celebrity-filled ceremony in New York, becoming the first extension of the trademarks Coca-Cola and Coke. Next is Coca-Cola's global reach. Entering the last quarter of the 20th century, the deep emotional bond between Coca-Cola and its consumers grew even more powerful and more global. Next is Coca-Cola's diversity in the 21st century. Coca-Cola built a competitive advantage through its product diversification by expanding its portfolio to include juices, water, and other sodas. The company is better able to meet the needs of consumers and differentiate its product from those of its competitors. Then, in 21st century, Coca-Cola focused on sustainability to make a difference in people's lives, communities, and the planet by doing business the right way. Coca-Cola today has reported a strong fourth quarter and full year 2022 results. Coca-Cola invested their capabilities and strengthened alignment with their bottling partners to maintain flexibility.
So today I'll be explaining about the beginning of Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola was begun in 1886 when the curiosity of Dr. John S. Pemberton, an Atlanta pharmacist, led him to create a distinctive, tasty soft drink that could be sold at soda fountains. He created a flavored syrup and took it to his neighborhood pharmacy, where it was mixed with carbonated water and deemed excellent by those who sampled it.
Success of Coca-Cola in market. Coca-Cola distinctive red and white logo has become one of the most recognizable brands in the world. Coca-Cola has run successful and memorable campaign over the years. iconic slogan created resonate with consumers and build positive emotion. Coca-Cola keep doing R&D to innovate and create new products. This includes new flavors, packaging, and the healthier beverage options.
Technology used in Coca-Cola operation. Manufacturing and production use bottling and filling equipment to ensure product consistency and quality. This machine can handle a high volume of bottles and cans per minute. Other than that, advanced quality control systems that use sensors and cameras to inspect bottles and cans that defect. Supply chain management in Coca-Cola use sophisticated inventory management software to optimize its supply chain. This also helps in forecasting demand and managing stock levels.
Supply chain management in Coca-Cola use sophisticated inventory management software to optimize its supply chain. This helps in forecasting demand and managing stock levels.
The first question is what can we learn from the case study? And the first answer is global impact. Coca-Cola's reputation was damaged by this incident on an international scale, showing how quickly crises can reach beyond the immediate area. It shows how interconnected international markets are and how an integrated global response is required. Even internationally famous companies like Coca-Cola are affected by reputation problems. This highlights the requirement for businesses to be proactive in identifying and resolving possible problems that can damage their brand reputation. The second one is regulatory compliance. This incident shows how crucial it is for the food and beverage business to maintain product safety and quality control. Making mistakes in these areas could have a negative impact on a company's reputation and also financial health. To avoid situations like this, businesses have to abide by all applicable laws and guidelines. Compliance with regulations may be helpful in preventing contamination and ensuring product safety.
Next, crisis communication strategies. Coca-Cola initially faced criticism for their delay and lack of honesty in handling the situation. To sustain public trust, business should put a priority on honest and direct communication during a crisis. After a crisis, rebuilding customer trust is difficult but important. Coca-Cola has to take action to gain back the faith of its consumer by improving quality control and making safety procedures more widely known. After that, what can we learn is learning from mistakes. In order to prevent contamination at any level of production, including the sourcing of raw materials and packaging, it is crucial to have extensive supply chain management and quality control system, as was highlighted by the incident. Companies can learn from their mistakes and take advantage of crisis situations to grow. Following these incidents, Coca-Cola made major improvement in its supply chain management and quality control procedures.
Next is impact of cultural variability based on Hofstede's framework that's stated in the articles and how it affects public response to crises. What is Hofstede's framework? Hofstede's framework provides a structured way to analyze cultural variations, and it has been widely used in fields such as international business, cross-cultural psychology, and intercultural communication. It helps individuals and organizations understand cultural differences, which is particularly important when working, communicating, or doing business in global contexts. These dimensions provide a systematic way to compare and contrast cultures from around the world. Hofstede's initial research identified 4 primary cultural dimensions, later expanded to 6. These dimensions are: first, power distance. This dimension measures how much a society accepts and expects unequal distribution of power. In cultures with high power distance, people are more likely to defer to authority figures and may be less prone to questions or challenge official statements or actions. In contrast, cultures with low power distance tend to question authority and may be more critical in their response to a crisis. Second is individualism versus collectivism. This dimension reflects the degree to which individuals in a society are expected to prioritize their own interests over the interests of their group or community. Individualistic cultures may be more likely to express their personal concerns and dissatisfaction in a crisis, while collectivist culture may prioritize group harmony and be less likely to openly criticize or confront a company like Coca-Cola. Third one is masculinity versus femininity. Masculine cultures emphasize competition, achievement, and assertiveness, while feminine cultures value cooperation, quality of life, and nurturing. In a crisis, a masculine culture may focus on holding the company accountable and demanding immediate action, while a feminine culture may be more inclined to seek collaborative solutions and emphasize the well-being of affected individuals. Next is uncertainty avoidance. This dimension measures a society's tolerance for ambiguity and uncertainty. Cultures with high uncertainty avoidance may react strongly to a crisis, seeking clear answers and immediate solutions, while cultures with low uncertainty avoidance may be more patient and open to ambiguity in their response. Next, long-term versus short-term orientation. This dimension distinguishes between cultures that prioritize long-term planning and persistence, and those that focus on immediate rewards and results. In a crisis, cultures with a long-term orientation may emphasize the need for lasting change and reforms, while short-term oriented cultures may prioritize quick fixes and immediate outcomes. The last one is indulgence versus restraint. This dimension relates to a society's attitude towards gratification of desires and impulses. In cultures with high indulgence, people may be more likely to seek immediate satisfaction and relief from a crisis, whereas cultures with high restraint may emphasize self-control and discipline in their response.
Public and official attitudes in Belgium, France, and Spain were driven by the uncertainty avoidance and power distance. High uncertainty avoidance in this country indicates a low tolerance for ambiguity and preference for straightforward rule and pessimism about firm goals. During the crisis, the public became less forgiving and more skeptical about Coca-Cola. A high power distance indicates that residents in this country do not trust power and anticipate disagreement between powerful organization and weaker public. Coca-Cola's silence during the crisis heightens the suspicion. The impact of cultural variability based on Hofstede framework, as described in the article, has significantly implication for how the public responds to the crisis. Let's examine how cultural dimensions such as uncertainty avoidance and power distance influence public response to crisis in both the short term and long term. Alright, so for short term implication, first and foremost is crisis perception. In culture with high uncertainty avoidance, people tend to be more nervous about unstarted and unpredictable situation. This means that when a crisis occurs, individuals in such culture may perceive it as a more severe threat, leading to immediate panic and heightened concern. In contrast, culture with low uncertainty avoidance may not view isolated incident as crisis, resulting in a calmer initial response. Next is communication strategies. The level of uncertainty avoidance also influences how organizations from different culture background respond to the crisis. High uncertainty avoidance culture are more likely to communicate actively, seeking to establish strict code of behavior and security, which can manifest as organizations reaching out to the public and authorities during a crisis. In contrast, low uncertainty avoidance culture may be less proactive in communication, assuming that less structure is needed. The third short-term implication is power dynamics. Power distance is another crucial factor. In high power distance culture, Those actions of those in power are often respected and less questioned. Therefore, if organization or leader mishandle a crisis, people may still initially trust them. However, in long term, if these powerful entities fail to meet cultural expectation, they may face severe backlash. Ladies and gentlemen, and for long-term implication, the first one is trust erosion. Culture variation in uncertainty avoidance and power distance can lead to trust erosion in long run. In culture with high uncertainty avoidance, if organizations do not provide clear and structured crisis communication, the public may lose trust in them. Similarly, in high power distance culture, if those in power are perceived as making mistakes or not upholding their position, trust can erode. The next one is accountability. As described in the article, the interaction between uncertainty avoidance and power distance can create the situation where powerful individual or organization are held to strict standards. In the long term, this can lead to demand for accountability and retribution if these standards are not met. This can result in legal action, protests, or boycott against organizations. Last but not least is reputation damage. Culture misalignment can lead to reputational damage for organizations operating in international contexts. If an organization from low uncertainty avoidance culture does not understand the concern of high uncertainty avoidance culture during crisis, it may inevitably damage its reputation. In summary, culture variation as defined by Hofstede framework significantly can affect how public responds to crisis in both short-term and long-term. Understanding this culture dimension is crucial for organization and public relation practitioners when crafting crisis communication strategies and maintaining international public trust. Failure to do so can have severe consequences for an organization's reputation and relationship with its international publics.
By using the step in the rational decision-making model, identify the action taken by Coca-Cola to recover from the crisis. First, identify the problem. Cultural viability. Belgium, Spain, and France do not tolerate an incident that creates risk, ambiguity, and conflict, while Sweden, Norway, and Denmark appear to be more patient and forgiving. On 14 June 1999, school children were reported to have become ill after consuming Coca-Cola drinks in Belgium. After some laboratory tests, there was no harmful substance in the Coca-Cola drinks. Coca-Cola's response was to deny responsibility and doubt the claim of additional illness. The next day, on 15 June 1999, Spain and France accused Coca-Cola of selling tainted products. The reason is that some tests found that the outside of the can had been in contact with a fungicide that had been applied to the wooden pellet that had been used in the shipping process, and low quality level of carbon dioxide in the fish in the bottle at the Coca-Cola factory may have made the children ill. But Norway, Sweden, and Denmark watched and waited for conclusive evidence before banning the sales of Coca-Cola and related products. And if the Coca-Cola crisis does have any indication, they are more forgiving of mistakes. Next, identify the decision criteria. 22 June 1999, after 9 days, Coca-Cola finally issued a public apology to Belgian consumer. The CEO of Coca-Cola acknowledged the problem and offered a free can of Coke to consumers to win back their loyalty and promised to pay more attention to bottling process. This tainting crisis has been considered the worst health scare in Coke history and a public relation disaster. In Spain, Coca-Cola are a luxury item in recession-prone Spain. Consumers are likely to switch to less expensive brand if given a valid reason. Thus, Coca-Cola make newspaper advertisement explaining that their product have full health guarantee and pose no risk for consumer. However, consumers did not believe this claim and did not buy Coca-Cola product. In other hand, France is a high power distance country. So, Coca-Cola completely ignored the France and no apologies were made to the French public. Hence, Coca-Cola product being banned in their country 1 day after Belgian authorities began allow the product to be sold in Belgium again.
Moreover, is develop the alternative. means identify or list all of the possible alternatives that could resolve the problem. So we know that Coca-Cola marketing strategies have changed. Coca-Cola has launched a new business strategy to better comprehend the specific culture and economic difficulties that exist in many countries throughout the world. Under incoming CEO Duff, Coca-Cola previous one product, one worldwide strategy will be adjusted. Other than that, in an interview with the New York Times, Duff summarized the bargain situation saying, "Perhaps there was no one there who understood the environment, or if we had people who understood the environment, we didn't listen to them." So, Coca-Cola appears to have realized the need of understanding its worldwide audience in order to ensure that everyone is satisfied with their products. Second, in the region, a coach-backed advertising campaign is in its final stage. This optimist campaign aims to reclaim market share, and hundreds of Coca-Cola representatives have been hired to engage with customers at grocery shops. Coca-Cola is still fighting to reclaim market share and re-establish ties with its European customer. Quality standards have been improved, and the corporation is investing millions to repair its relationships. The agreement will allow the company to better serve the changing demand of its consumers and consumers at the local level, as well as guarantee that Coca-Cola complements the local culture in each community where it is sold. Coca-Cola's success is dependent on their ability to make billions of individual connections in every community around the world every day. With the rate of change in global marketplace growing by the day, they must redouble their effort to stay in touch with the clients and consumers they serve. The last one is implement the alternative. Understanding cultural diversity may help organizations better focus on how overseas public will respond to organization message. Organizations seeking to enter the global marketplace should educate themselves on the culture and socio-economic elements that influence the behavior of their host public. Culture heterogeneity, current events, and society tolerance are all critical them to understand. The world, as Coca-Cola discovered, is not one market, one strategy. Instead, the world is a jumble of cultures and versions that influence how people react to it.